Sorry I couldn't make this in and get with you guys last night. It was a small technical glitch. It was a button that jumped off the default mode somehow, and I should have known how to press it and address it, but I didn't learn how to today, so it won't be a problem moving forward. You didn't miss much though. I hated the car to start with and lost a couple of bucks. I don't really blame myself for it though, because I'm really superstitious and a good friend of mine noted, I will say famous, iHeart disc jockey Scott Davidson, who's been a good friend of mine for a long time and a fan of the simulcast show from back when Michael and I used to do it, came all the way down from Akron to sit in the dungeon last night. And Scott is an absolute jinx. You will not hit shit when Scott's around. Scott could have gotten spectacular bid beat in that historic walkover. And I kid you not. As a matter of fact, I hope he's not watching tonight because there were times when Michael and I would not even let him in the studio. We pretend like we weren't home. I mean, we were there and we could be seen on the TV feed throughout the facility. But it was like, go away, Scott. Nobody's home in here. We had a lot of rules about who did get and didn't get to visit us in the simulcast studio. If we didn't like somebody or we thought they were some kind of a freaking jinx, we would just blame it on management. Rosemary, who was the original director of racing, or her successor, Jim Colvin, we would just put it on them and say, yeah, they don't allow us to have visitors in here. But if somebody was prone to flatter us or bring us food or beverages, adult beverages sometimes even, well, yeah, come right on in. Sit down. Yeah, we got some cushioned chairs over there. I should duck when I say this, I think, because again, off the turf. So amount of grass racing seems to have gone the way of the Stegosaurus. I don't know what happened. It is pretty rare when 2 consecutive days of sun, dry days, can't get racing staged on the grass course. But again, off the turf, and I really used to take heat when I did the Mountaineer feed, whenever I'd have to announce the main track was fast and races were off turf, because people love grass racing, bigger fields, more competitive races, better prices. It's grand spectacle, and it's a large reason why people like to bet the mountain or the warm weather months. So when you tell them the main track is fast, but the action is not on the turf, it's almost like saying, yeah, the bank's open, but you can't take your money out. The vault's closed for the day. The button that I learned how to address and fix today does not do anything to help me address the static, the bad sound, and the fading in and out, and the need to reboot that has been plaguing me here in the dungeon. And I got a guy coming from Xfinity tomorrow. I hope he knows what he's doing to check out my internet speed. They told me when I called Xfinity yesterday to get a visit, and they didn't give me a lot of hassle about it either, which they usually do, that I'm eligible for an upgrade in internet speed. So hopefully that's going to do something. He's going to bring a new modem, and I'm going to try and get him down here because those guys are good with tech, I'm going to try and get him down here and maybe influence him a little bit with the Yankee dollar to check out the microphone too. So hopefully we can fix that stuff too tomorrow. Welcome in, Dungeon Dwellers. I am Mark Patterson. And again, sorry I couldn't get with you guys last night, but you're probably better off that I didn't. I got a banner up there for how the track played. 7 of 8 winners last night had the lead at the first or second call. So it was a rough night for closers, for certain. I think just 2 races were scheduled tonight on the grass. Yeah, Scott is a jinx. He's an absolute jinx. Super nice guy, and you kind of like to see him coming, but kind of you don't. And I am so highly superstitious, and so was McMichael. But she had lucky blouses, I had lucky shirts, and we even had lucky pens and jinx pens, and we'd heave them out the window, heave them straight out into the hall from the simulcast studio if we took a tough beat. We do a lot of strange looks from people walking by, from the passersby, believe me. First race is 6 furlongs. This was never going to be the turf. So these are dirt creatures. Now winners twice in 12 months here for the $5,000 claiming price. I think we've got 7 to the post. And we should be, about 9 minutes away? So we'll take it right down in order. Road to Stardom on the inside. I think I lost about $100 last night. I didn't take a shellacking or anything like that because I knew I didn't like the card. Road to Stardom. I'm looking back at the win. And that was at the expense of a horse named Hagler, who ain't much horse, if you know Hagler. And Making Me Crazy was third. A gray horse who used to be all the rage at Mahoning, but hasn't been for about 6 years. So that was soft competition. Road to Stardom also, and this is telling, went out and got the lead. in victory there. And I don't think the lead's available for Road to Stardom in here. I've never had a high opinion of this horse. Seems devoid of running style. Just goes out and kind of competes, but not the kind of horse you can ever point to and say, man, I love me some Road to Stardom. And here are the reasons why. I can't do it. Number 2, Mighty Mo. Mighty Mo. Here's Vasquez, man. Like a 25% trainer. And he just keeps on trucking. Mighty Mo, though, it seems like nobody wants Mighty Mo because Mighty Mo was sold over from Larry Smith over to Kevin Fletcher. And then Kevin Fletcher saw fit to run Mighty Mo for 3,200 claiming and off a win in a second for 5,000 at Belterra. He had to know he would probably not take Mo back to the barn with him. So Larry Smith didn't want Mighty Mo, even on the heels of some sharp form, a couple of places in a win. And Kevin Fletcher didn't want Mighty Mo, threw him to the Wolves for $3,200 there. But all bets could be off with Vasquez because he can turn the Titanic around, man, and avoid that iceberg right now. He really can. Mighty Mo does not have a history of much early speed. Mighty Mo, stalker on most of the form there, but kind of got his speed on. A couple of starts at Belterra there on June 10th and June 27th. Now, some of his speed, a lot of his speed's in longer races. So I think the big thing here is, will he be a pace factor, Mighty Mo, and able to apply some pressure and maybe foil some stronger contenders? They're going to be out there shooting for the lead. Lomachenko, number 3. I hate these front-running route horses that are just versatile enough to rally a little bit when they run 6 furlongs, even though it's not their best game. Their best game is to go 2 turns and cruise on out there to the lead. The finale yesterday, didn't Jaybird win with a horse like that? Quizmer. I tried to beat Quizmer and felt like an idiot after the race after he blew that field up. And you could kind of see the makings there. I knew he's going to be like no better than 4th down the backstretch. It didn't matter because you can see where he had stocked the pace in some of his long races. Quizmer. Lomachenko wants to go to lead, wants to go long, but is okay going 6 furlongs, sit for the cycle from just 4 tries at the 6 furlong distance and wins last time. He was off the bench there for that race and has been given a little bit more than a month to avoid the dreaded bounce there. Lomachenko was on a short list of horses here, I think, just to try to get inside the heads of these connections a little bit, who probably would not be entered for 4,000 or 3,200 bucks. They were probably insistent on putting Lomachenko in no lower than 5,000 because they lost him for 5 and took him back for 5. So arguably he might have a slight quality edge over some of these horses that have been running for 4,000 and 3,200 and in all kinds of condition races. Lomachenko does not exit a productive race. The horse who ended up second there, Poppy's Pride, opened a big lead and kind of got a little bit late. He'd been away from the game for a couple of months and did not flatter Lomachenko last night in the nightcap, not in the slightest. Poppy's Pride. It could come down to trip in large part for Lomachenko and whether one of these speeds is able to establish dominance over the others by the time they, I don't know, bank into that far turn, get a little bit into that turn. Ready for action, bad field, good trip. Don't like him. I'm talking about his win from July 1st. I don't like him based on that victory. Class Actor, number 6. Class Actor has been kind of an in and outer this year, but he does possess speed. He's in a dangerous Jamie Pool barn. And Class Actor has been running in some shorter sprints, so that could intensify his speed when he moves out to 6 furlongs here, and fought back last time, not against the best horse in creation, Law of the Jungle. And this is one of those horses, Class Actor, that had the right race popped around in the condition book, and they were playing his song in the heading. He probably would have run right back for the 3,200 or the 4,000 bucks. Class Actor, who was a 3-time winner at 6 furlongs. Gray Streak, he likes a good setup, man. He got a good setup. I think he was all primed to pop. And they bet some money from the inside on him when he got a good closer-friendly setup and victory here on May the 13th. And very strange race the next time that he deigns to grace an exacted ticket, because that had to be the most lacking in speed 6 furlong race of the year when a horse that normally closes from down deep in his own right, Osprey, actually goes out and gets the lead there. And Gray Streak was part of the pace. Gray Streak will not be part of the pace in here. And you can take that to the bank, and they will give you your money if you bet against Gray Streak. That was a lousy analogy, wasn't it? When it's sunny and the mountain main is fast and still off turf, it's like when the bank is open, but they won't give you money. I don't know. I could have come up with something better than that, correct? The best horse in the race and the hardest horse to gauge in the race, I think, is Cozy's Wildcat on the outside. Cozy's Wildcat And I'm going to check out how many minutes to post we have here. And I guess I'm coming in loud and clear because I see folks are in the comments section. I hope this sounds okay tonight. And hopefully, we can tinker with that a little bit tomorrow and fix it. I hope it's an internet issue because this chick told me when I got on the phone, and I hate the people that come on the phone when you call Xfinity Comcast. They're an evil freaking company for so many reasons. But she came off script and acted half human and told me, do you know you're actually eligible to receive free, one or two free cable channels? Peacock, I think, was one of them, with no catch, nothing like that, nothing sneaky or underhanded about it, I don't think. And for a faster internet package for even less than you're paying now. So sent me something. I checked off the boxes. So some guy's coming tomorrow to set me up with it. And hopefully that's been the problem is I got to reboot this big unwieldy apparatus 2 or 3 times a night. And even worse when the sound's all garbled and stuff, which has been quite the issue on certain occasions. Now, Cozy's Wildcat cut his teeth as a front running wind machine and those long 2-turn sprints at Charlestown. Came to Mountaineer and was competing 12, 15,000, stuff like that. And then he gets down cheap and comes back around last season. And he's running buyers up in the 80s against the likes of Superstar Wind Machine, Starter Allowance Horse Extraordinaire, Gates of Heaven. Wonder where he's been this season. That Cozy's Wildcat will be lights out for this field, man, with his extreme speed. And he's also strong and loves to win with those 16 career scores. This is where it gets a little bit puzzling. Cozy's Wildcat was only rested during the time Mountaineer was down. So they wintered him, which is normal for a lot of horses from the place the action peaks. They went down in early December. He went down in late November. They came back up in mid-April. He came back up in mid-April. So it doesn't exactly bespeak a cripple, does it? Or anything like that. Plus, they protected Cozy's Wildcat from claim his first 3 trips to the post this year. And he seemed to be coming around a little bit on June the 16th when he chases superior early firepower in the presence of a fellow wind-type French onion there. So that's a good effort from Cozy's Wildcat. But next time at 2-1, taking a big class drop, that's right out the window. And this horse never even makes half a charge at the early lead for whatever reason. Now, that puzzles me. And now Cozy's Wildcat takes a further drop. But it's not like every class dropper has some serious infirmity currently plaguing him. That's not how it works. As a matter of fact, I got to believe the horse has a sound leg in each corner and is at least serviceably sound because they protected him from claim his first 3 times back again. And he was only rested and down when Mountaineer was down, Cozy's Wildcat. And Cozy's Wildcat, I would say, is one of just 2 horses in here that would not have been entered if this race been written with the same condition for $4,000 or $3,200. If you think that gives him a class edge, well, last year it would have, for certain. So it's going to be pretty obvious when they bank into that far turn if Cozy's Wildcat is already looming abreast. Cozy's Wildcat already has a slight drop on them. I mean, fellow speeds, Mighty Mo, and to a greater extent, Class Actor, or else if Cozy's Wildcat is again strangely sluggish. So those have to be the 2 low prices, right? And I called out the price point, the morning line price point on Cozy's Wildcat, and I have repackaged when I draw your attention to lousy morning line odds to morning line prices that beg to be called out. And Cozy's Wildcat, I think, is 12-1 on the morning line. And it's not like they can use turf as an excuse because this was never lined up for the turf. This was always going to be dirt. And anybody that thinks Cozy's Wildcat was going to be 12-1 on here, maybe, kind of, sort of, needs a different hobby. I think the key horse in the daily double, by the way, is Chiwenda, number 3. In race number 2. It's kind of how I see it. I'm thinking about betting some daily doubles. I think I made it pretty clear how I see the first race, who I like, who I don't like. Not a tout show. I don't have to run through that whole rigmarole again, do I? So I'll be back after the race, guys. It's good to be back with you. So let me get this straight. This horse is beating a pole last time for $3,200 and runs off the screen tonight. Absolutely leaves the field on a double class jump. That's just good hay oats and vitamins that's causing these fast cast horses to freak time after time after time after time. You ask these guys, and that's what they'll tell you too. I feed real good, and I use vitamins, and I worm the horse and found a couple of things that I wanted to fix. It sure looks like Mr. Vasquez found a little something to fix there. And Mighty Mo, who was headed south faster than Grant went through Richmond, baby, because Mighty Mo was sold over in rare form from Larry Smith to Kevin Fletcher, and Kevin Fletcher runs the horse for $3,200 because he can't wait to unload a horse that he just purchased, and all out the window. And it was definitely possible, as hot as Vasquez is right now. And Vasquez not only rights the ship, I think I said before the race that this guy could stop the Titanic right now from hitting an iceberg and turn the tide there and turn the fate around. And boy, he did there, because Mighty Mo hit a couple of icebergs last time and sails clear into a clear blue ocean tonight, completely unscathed, this Mighty Mo. And again, just good hay oats and water there, guys. Mr. Vasquez's reputation precedes him. I've heard some stories. Oh, I've heard some stories. And I couldn't say that kind of thing on the Mountaineer feed. They would have brought the torches for me. Like I was Dr. Frankenstein and they were marching on the castle. I'm not accusing him of anything. Just saying that one hears rumors. Not going to specify the rumors, and just crediting him for having better hay and oats than some of his brethren on the backstretch. 1 mile 4 race. Am I clear, guys? Am I really clear there? Race number 2. Starter $4,000, fillies and mares. Yeah, that's what it is. We're going to go a mile, not a grassy mile. It was supposed to be a grassy mile. Make it a dirt mile. And only 3 of these horses, by my count, actually want to go a 2-turn trip on conventional dirt. Now, Take Wings can do it on turf. No question about this, that this ain't turf. And Take Wings does not have the same kind of stamina on dirt. I think when it comes to dirt, Take Wings is much better around 1 turn. So the 3 horses that actually want the journey here, and I think it's really obvious, are Handle on You, Exhilarating Purpose. I don't know if I'm going to count Priyanka or not here. I can never figure her out. And Tuenda, number 3. And the pace looks rapid. Now, if you're thinking that Take Wings is going to open the lead like she usually does, then I get it. I understand it. And well, she may. Take Wings. Take Wings is a turf horse extraordinaire. Take Wings is 2 for 2 on turf. And one of those races found her in a pressing posture, which she doesn't want to do, man. She wants them to be chasing her. And those were science fiction fractions. And man, did she get tough and dig in and still win. Could be any kind on grass, Take Wings. They tried for a second straight time to get her on the grass tonight. Not to be. So she's okay on dirt. So they go ahead and run her on dirt. Take Wings. You can see where she's opened big leads a couple of times at a distance of ground on the mountain main, though, and been tagged there. And not by a good horse necessarily, Memento Me. And then Canadian Bear's a good horse, but Canadian Bear beat her 7 lengths and outran her like probably 10 or 12 lengths in the quarter pole to the finish. So she gets late when she runs 2 turns on dirt. Now, you could make an argument that her most recent race found her abnormally game for a mare who's usually one-dimensional speed, Take Wings, because she hung tough there after she gets put away around the far turn as Bashful Daisy blew that field apart with the Arazi move around the far turn. So maybe that bespeaks some improvement in stamina for Take Wings. I don't think it translates back out to 2 turns, though. Her 2-turn race is on dirt. And you really have to divide her into 3 categories: turf, dirt sprints, and dirt routes. And dirt routes are obviously her Achilles heel. She can lead them on Mary Chase and look every bit a winner when they turn for home. But you better hold your breath if you bet on her to win this race, Take Wings. And also, and I think this complicates things potentially, now she's got that breakaway speed when she runs a distance of ground, and sprint speed doesn't always translate to route speed. I've cashed some big bets on that premise as a player. But you got That's a Fancy Fox along the inside who gets the lead. At first call, the last three times going short, and one of those leads was 22-2 for That's a Fancy Fox, and has the inside here. And the reinvigorated That's a Fancy Fox. So uh, that claim did kick in. The private sale did kick in belatedly. One start with Thomas Martinez, and he solves something with That's a Fancy Fox, and That's a Fancy Fox wins. And I took down a good daily double score, paid $70 that night when That's a Fancy Fox wired the second race. And that kind of sprint speed doesn't always translate to route speed, but usually, probably. So she's got a chance to really keep Take Wings honest here, to catch a flyer and make life really hard for a horse that likes to quit at 2 turns on dirt anyways and Take Wings. So Betsy is the code. I have no idea what this guy's doing sometimes. The spots that he puts his horses in. I think he's desperate at this point with Betsy as the code, who's just not working out for him. This is being claimed from Team Langley. Betsy is the code could conceivably put her 2 cents in on the pace out there. And looks like a grand setup for somebody that can sit back and somebody that can come late. And that somebody really looks like Tuenda to me. But this is not going to be a revelation. This is all obvious stuff to even competent handicappers, much less the Sharpies or the CAWs. Tuenda is 3 for 6 over the Mountain Main and wins by a comfortable margin here back on April the 21st. And then I'm going to fast forward to July 6th and just annihilates that field with a speed fig that kind of rocks it. Maybe get a good setup, but there's a lot of setup in here too. Tuenda comes back on the class race and was in a fairly deep race there. It was not entered to be claimed there. Runs kind of a so-so third and gets protected from claim again here. The 4-year-old filly Tuenda. So on her body of work and her running style. And I love the situation for her. I think she's heads above the other route horses in there that actually want to come from behind, like Priyanka and a Handle on You, who worked hard to win a $4,000 condition race last time. Although the figure on that wasn't too bad for Handle on You on July the 28th, and the Shoe Lady would come back from that to win. So Handle on You is probably something to think about here, especially the way Vasquez is rolling right now. Handle on You would be the horse to fear here for me. Number 6, Handle on You. Exhilarating Purpose. Exhilarating Purpose showed a three-peat last year, and a couple of those were at this mile distance over the Mountain Main. This is a West Virginia bred, and they've used the condition book pretty cleverly with her. Her last race didn't prove a whole lot, though. Exhilarating Purpose. Somebody had to be second to the 1-10 favorite. I don't think that was even a minus pool. Sky's Music coming up from Charlestown. And some of the other horses went up and chased the pace early and don't really want to finish. And Exhilarating Purpose laid back and made no attempt to accost that winner or compete for top prize. And that was able to net her second there, Exhilarating Purpose. So I would say she's the third likeliest closer in here behind Tuenda and behind Handle on You. Handle on You just kind of languished and to burn a lot of money in non-life claimers, cheap claimers, mainly last season and early this season as well, before finally catching fire in those last couple of starts. And she upped her buyer speed fig game considerably and upped her overall game as well. And I'm going to say this tactfully: as the barns go, so goes the stock. So after Vasquez pulls that little number in the first with a complete form reversal on Mighty Mo, it looked like Fabulous Strike out there. You can probably expect more of the same from Handle on You here in race number 2. And Handle on You, if anything, is more tactical than is Tuenda and could get first run on Tuenda. And they're coming towards the track. And it's 6-5 on Take Wings. This is a horse I want to try and beat. I know speed's good. I understand. But so many times when speed is just rock solid at one turn at Mountaineer, it's far from invincible at 2 turns. The Mountain Main almost has a split personality. You can come from behind most nights at 2 turns, even on nights when you can't rally at all, going short. What if That's a Fancy Fox can entertain her? If That's a Fancy Fox catches a good flyer and makes Take Wings work to the first call, then Take Wings is not going to win this. It's not going to happen. And even if Take Wings clears That's a Fancy Fox into the first turn, At 2 turns on dirt, Take Wings is far from home free. They have not risked her from claims since they found out she is a burgeoning turf superstar, Take Wings, have they? And she's right in her prime at 4 years old, so she's got a good future ahead of her if they ever run on grass again in Mountaineer. Do we have that much rain? I didn't do the footsie test on my own yard this afternoon. But it looked dry enough for the guys to come and cut the grass tomorrow. And I got to be careful because they have these big honking riding mowers and sometimes leave some ruts that take a couple more cuttings to heal if they cut the grass when it's a little too damp out there. But it looks really dry and good to go for me for tomorrow for them to come and cut the grass because traditionally they do it on Thursdays. Had a doctor propose a knee replacement for me earlier today, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, guys. I want to get your feedback. Anybody out there had a knee replacement? If so, please sound in the comment section. As it stands right now, guys, I do rate the 3 the likeliest winner, but the 6 is under bet. I believe at 5-1. Just to elucidate a little bit more and handle on you guys. Handle on you's last race. Got a really good trip is there was a vicious fight for the lead. Suicide packed up front. Lead changed hands, turn, and that horse backed up as well. And handle on you was getting caught to a 28-1 shot in the shadow of the wire. So it was less visually impressive than the number from that looks. So my man Ace McDuff, always straight to the point, says, geez, 3-5, how are we supposed to beat this game? I'll get back to you on that one. My man Ace, that horse was never going to lose. To end up, you know what's interesting though, the pro speed theory, I think gained a little more steam there, even though Chuenda came from way back. The Thrash, that's a fancy fox, but that's a fancy fox. If you look at her route history, man, she collapses every time she's tried a distance of ground in her entire career. So for her to hold second there, I think definitely bespeaks a speed biased track. And I guess the foreign books and the fixed odds overseas are usually indicative of what the prices are going to look like. Closing odds at the mountain. And we had somebody in the chat there that came in. Let me give this guy some credit. Yeah, my man Peter, who predicted that price was going to go south of even money, but you could see it coming. It was always going to happen. I have no idea why Langley keeps running Take Wings on dirt. I know she's a 3-time winner on dirt, but you're wasting starts and you're putting mileage on her odometer, and she's potentially a turf superstar, believe me, but he's just a very stubborn, old school Oklahoma hard boot conditioner, Longshot Wilson Langley, who sent out Take Wings on dirt there, and 2 turns on dirt. That's not her game. It's just not. Thomas Martinez is capable of working a little magic on a limited basis when he gets a hot hand. And you can see that in evidence with That's a Fancy Fox, which finally validates some of the stuff I've been saying about this guy all year. And somebody said in the comments there, 12 years ago, knee surgery, and it's still working out for you? Please explain to me, is it like a normal knee? Can you do the things? Because for a fat guy, and I have lost weight since I got the heart condition, I'm like death by 1,000 cuts. Like I got 1,000 things wrong with me, but nothing bad enough to kill me or end me. And I have to stay active and I hike really hard uphill, 3 or 4 times a week, a mile, 2 miles. And I go to the gym religiously. And can I still do that stuff? I forget a replacement knee. Will it do anything my old knee could? Because, man, when he looked at my x-ray today, and they took x-rays before they gave me my shot, my once every 3 months shot of cortisone, which gives me great relief for about 6 weeks or so. And they ushered me in to get x-rays today because I guess for insurance purposes, so they have to do that periodically. So then the doctor comes in and looks at the x-ray and shows it to me and says, man, you're bone on bone. You're absolutely bone on bone. So I said, some days are better than others, doc, but I'm a tough guy. I can take it. And I stay active. And he said, that's great. He looked at me a little skeptically. So I says, good doctor, are you telling me there is probably a knee replacement in my future? And he went, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I said, well, doc, probably someday, but not this day. So please, somebody who's had a knee replacement, further elucidate how that worked out for you and how it works and whether you can still be active and still hike and stuff like that, still golf. I've heard it takes a long time to rehab a knee replacement, that it's really painful, but once you get it going and get it smoothed out and undergo the pain and all the torment of getting it in shape, physical therapy, that it's really good. So let me know, please. The third race was our only other turf event of the evening. It was supposed to be 7/8. We're going to make it 6 furlongs on a fast mountain main, which sure looks speed biased, doesn't it? Yeah, it was speed biased last night with, again, 7 of 8 winners on top of the first or second call. This is a non-winners twice in 26 or never for a life. They love to write this as an allowance, and they fill it with some decent fields. Number 5, Lose Legacy. I don't know what the price is on the fixed odds foreign books, but they got to be pretty low. I'm here to tell you guys. Lose Legacy really towers above these horses. I'm looking at Hugo Andrade, who won a race last up on the horse that I really couldn't figure out. I'm not surprised that horse won at 2-1. If you remember, one of the latter races I'm talking about, the horse went out and vied between horses and was really brave in victory. A former Paulo Lobo, and he's gold when he runs at Mountaineer. And I bet him even when he runs at Turfway Park, if I'm moonlighting and betting a little Turfway, which I used to when my good friend Hollywood Bob was still kicking. But former Polo Lobo horse he wins with last night, and he's having a good year. Hugo Andrade. And this horse has won 2 allowances this year, 2 allowance sprints in Ohio. His Lose Legacy. And those are pretty rare credentials for an off-turf race like this that's written with a funky-ass mixed condition like this. Lose Legacy attempted to route a ground on June the 6th there. And I don't care if DRF said the splits were speed-friendly. Blazing Boros, who ended up second there, has an extreme turn of sprint acceleration. And I pulled the chart up and Lose Legacy. I threw down with Blazing Burrows, and that's no way to make a living, believe me, when you're trying to go 2 turns. So I got to believe this horse wants to go short. I think may have won a route race earlier in his career, but at this stage, 6 seems like the better game, like the trainer's record. And it clipped heels last time, so that's a toss-out for me. And the horse was outclassed anyways. And a straight-up allowance optional 3 other than at Thistledown. I think that winner, who's maybe a ham horse, an Ohio bred, I'd have been thinking more about maybe doing some Mahoning from the dungeon here when Mahoning rolls around, guys. So I'm considering it. I think Fortissimo is one of those stakes winners versus Ohio breds and ran through his conditions outside the program and has probably banged out about $400,000, something like that, for trainer Tim Ham. Mr. Chili Willie, and this happens all the time, guys. If you don't learn anything from me, then please tuck this in your toolbox. So many horses that can run on turf or dirt reach a point where they say, no, I'm not doing it anymore. Did that sound manly when I said no? No, I didn't, did it? But whatever. So anyways, so many of those horses reach a point where they turn their nose up at conventional dirt, and it's got to be grass, which they frolic on or nothing. And you can see what's happened to Mr. Chili Willie. His last few go-rounds on conventional dirt, ooh, not pretty. Not pretty at all. Let's check out the time frame here, guys. 0 minutes to post, so I got to hurry a little bit. Little Red Bodette on the inside. Used the bias last time. Cruised up to what was a soft pace and beat what I thought was an okay field at the time, although Doc B really didn't run. To credentials. He was a really short price. They're just coming onto the track, so we got some time here. Little Red Bodette cut his teeth as a speed horse and had a lot of speed. I don't think I can still conjure up that early speed because he was so sluggish a couple of times on turf at 5H. I think learned to close and broke better last time at 6 furlongs than he had been breaking. I don't know how much speed's still left in the tank here for Little Red Bodette, but his win there on dirt, and I got to rate him off his dirt wears, does not stack up with those 2 consecutive allowance wins from Lose Legacy on conventional dirt. And those were not taken off turf, as Little Red Bodette's most recent race was taken off turf. Now, this horse is useful, has the speed behind him. He's only 3 and can play the dirt card or the turf card. At 5-2, though, there's a tote correction to come in because the late money's got a slam. Number 5, Lose Legacy. Who is betting Bosley here? Please look at Bosley's dirt form. Last 2 dirt races, loses them by. Do you have your abacus? 50 freaking lengths. And that's who Bosley is on conventional dirt, guys. Did somebody get some bets in on this horse and never got the memo that the races are off turf? Astonishing stuff. The 8-horse Timeless Bounty is 20-1 and is the only horse in there that I think might have a chance to beat Lose Legacy. Now, this trainer is 1 for 63 and like 2 for 48 at Mountaineer, so it never wins. And I can see why, because he's just too high on his horses. His run Timeless Bounty and whatever fills, as long as there's an allowance and as long as the horse is outclassed, it seems like. This is the softest assignment he's had in quite some time, though. Timeless Bounty. And if you look at the back form, like last fall, late last summer, he's got some good sprints there. And was in a tough race with Silence and Brick Ambush there at Thistledown and a straight up allowance. And that speed fig would compete here from Timeless Bounty. I would not be surprised were this Michigan bred to get a piece of this. I wouldn't, not at all. And he was going to get a little play here. He's down to 9-1 now and probably dropping. The tote correction that's coming is Lose Legacy is going to get mauled. I think with the late money here. Bosley, I don't care if Bosley wins. I will still sit here after the race and say it's idiotic to bet Bosley in this race. Absolutely idiotic. Mr. Chili Willie, 2-1. I don't care if Mr. Chilly Willy wins. And I know that he had this dirt record where he never ran worse than second time after time after time when he first blew into town. But this horse long ago gave up the ghost as far as running on dirt. So what's the theory here? He doesn't like sloppy dirt, but he'll be okay flipping back to fast dirt. I think that's the idea, correct? Maybe that's the reasoning for Mr. Chilly Willy to be this low at 2-1. And perhaps he is seen as the speed here because both the turf lovers are quote unquote the early speeds in this race, so to speak. Bosley and Mr. Chilly Willy, and that could be compressing the odds a little bit too. I can talk till I'm blue in the face. It's not going to matter because the price of the 5 horse is going to take a big hit. And I like him a lot to win this. Lose Legacy. And when Jeff Fletcher wins a race, and I do respect him, he's a good horseman and kind of a sharp guy. He's better than his 9% record on the year looks. But when he wins a race, man, I'm so glad I'm not working at Mountaineer anymore because he is a man who is not devoid of ego. And he will seek you out and rub it into you. He will find you if it takes him a month. And remember every race that he won since the last time he saw you. And he will begin with, hey, geez. He'll make some light conversation. And then he'll say, hey, geez, how come you didn't like that horse I ran 2 weeks ago? I saw where you didn't pick him. Knew he was going to win. Just merciless. They rub it into you when he wins a race. And I do respect him. Nice guy, too. I've golfed with him. And again, a good horseman. But what I always wonder about those guys, and I used to say when I worked in the racing office in the mornings as assistant racing secretary, which basically put me in charge of the operation, that you knew you were going to get 8 visits the next morning from the 8 trainers that won races the night before coming over to take a bow and wave to the crowd and accept their plaudits and stuff like that. And I used to feel like saying to guys like Fletcher, geez, where were you the 8 times the horse got beat? Where were you then? Did you want to come around and talk then? No, you didn't, did you? So they're a little selective sometimes with their visits. But again, I like Jeff Fletcher. I've golfed with him. He's a good golfer, by the way, and a good trainer. And you know what? I think the money on Mr. Chilly Willy, and if anybody looks like an idiot there, it's me. It's not whoever got on Mr. Chilly Willy. I think the reasoning there was he's a strong 2-turn horse. He's going to get the lead in a 6-furlong race, speed's carrying. And I think his backers were willing to excuse those desultory dirt efforts because it was sloppy. But I didn't see it that way. I like the 5 horse a lot. So all I could do is congratulate those of you who liked Mr. Chilly Willy, who cashed a ticket there, and turn the page and move on. The 5 horse didn't run a jump. I mean, not a single jump. Did not see that coming. Jocks agents are the same way. If they had a good night the night before and won 3 or 4 races, you're going to see them at the racing office window the next morning as if the first jocks agent in history that ever had a breakout night. If those people knew how difficult it is to impress me, they wouldn't have bothered to come over and take a bow. They really wouldn't. 6 panels, 4th race. We're past what was supposed to be turf. Put it behind us. Boy, speed's good, huh? It was good last night. Somebody said in the chat that you have to rehab the knee and be real careful. A disturbing comment, though. I think somebody said in their Ace, my man Ace, said that do it around Christmas time so you don't have to put up with the in-laws. Do you mean I got to be hospitalized? If I get a knee replacement, I got to be in there? Because I hate spending time in hospitals like anybody else, you know? I mean, like anybody else. It's so depressing. I can remember one time when I was first diagnosed with AFib, my heart beats out of sync and too fast. I didn't even know I had a heart condition. So they detected it, tested me, and sent me to the Gulag, a Western Penn hospital in Pittsburgh, which is like hell. It's got this bleak urban decor. And it's like being in hell. And it was over Christmas time. It was a couple of days before Christmas when I get sent there, and man, I've never been more down, more lonely in my life. I've never felt worse in my life or more hopeless. I got to be in the hospital? For how freaking long, by the way, if I get a knee replacement? It ain't an outpatient thing, huh? Okay. I get you. Number 3. How's it sound out there, by the way, guys? 6 furlongs, number 3, coming up next. And Vasquez is running a twosome at you. Speed horse Sonny the Great, who struggled to win the 2-lifer, but gets back on fairly short rest here, less than 10 days. And had come from behind a little bit. I think that pace setter kind of waited on him and stayed left lead and lost his action down the lane. Interval, who specializes in blowing clear leads. Sonny the Great's kind of a little horse who's like a little engine that could. He just tries and tries and tries and tries. I think his shot would be to get the lead here on a speed favoring racetrack. I'm not sure he's got a world of potential because he was doing for $4,000 just second time to the post. The other Vasquez horse is going to be more heavily bet, and he's bigger on the buyer scale, a lot bigger. Short time. Short time gets Negron, who won like what, 9 in a row, 9 of his mounts in a row, not 9 consecutive mountaineer races in a row. And as I wrote on social media, good on the grown. I respect it, but I respect the 36 legs that carried him to those 9 wins more than I do the jockey. I'm not a jockey guy, and it did not endear me. And I put this on social media to those brave souls in the jockey's room. It just didn't. To me, it's a trainer's game, and the horses are the stars. While we're on the topic of jockeys, though, how come Palcar in tandem with Clouston, when they won 11 in a row, working together, with some losses for each in between, I think, how come they didn't make national news? I worked up some odds on it. I'm not a mathematician, but it was like 350,000 to 1 or something like that. It was incredible. Short Time was closing in on a loose leader last time, a horse that had things his own way out there, and was the favorite, Stepnoski. So had not a bit of help Short Time and was flying late. So that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. He's going to be a deserving favorite here. Semper Anticus from the inside, as Tina Ramjeet calls Deshaun Parker's number on Semper Anticus, as Andrew Ramjeet rides Raji, the 9, instead. Semper Anticus rolls by 7 some odd lengths, going 6 furlongs back in June, and made a good turn move, as if 6 furlongs is not a bad trip for him. I was in some trouble first turn, I think, or something like that on June the 14th, and so predictable that he comes back and just robs. Took a step backwards last time, regressed a little bit, I think, at a time when he should be getting better. Semper Anticus, he does not have sprint speed, so he's a horse with a style that's been penalized lately over the mountain main. Not a good style to win with right now, the way the mountain main's playing. So speed favoring, And he's not just a horse that's not getting a lead. He's a horse that may not be in front of anybody down the backstretch. Blue Spearman, when a horse is off more than a year and runs twice and then needs another 2 months, that horse ain't right. There's something wrong. Blue Spearman, though, does have the natural speed to maybe get the lead here, or to at least hook number 7, Sonny the Great, who's Byers, Sonny the Great. Again, his numbers leave something to be desired here. Moving Pictures, ain't much horse. Better go. I watched him win at Mahoning. You know how when you watch horses win sometimes, and you just form an opinion, they may never win again, because you see how little they beat and the circumstances that it took for them to win. They're probably never going to be in that soft again, in such a favorable set of circumstances again. He's kind of one of those horses, better go, because I'm going to tell you, like Eileen's Desperado and that third finisher were really bad horses. And his Bayerfig, and I hate this, did not match the lofty margin of victory there. But if you forget that win and look at his last couple of races, cuts back after making a good turn move last time. And the start before was third in a faster race than this is going to be, to a better horse than these. Gavia was a SoCal class horse, coming back loaded for Bear off the bench for Juan Pablo Silva, correct? Can't like Skylar's brother and Rahi on the outside. The Rahi. Are we learning something here because Andrew Ramjeet wants to ride this one instead of Semper Anticus? Well, he's never won on Semper Anticus, and he knows Rahi, huh? That was a closer's setup and a closer's track, and it was a complete meltdown, and you can see how slow the field came home when he gobbled up all that ground late to win on July the 20th. So everything was his way there, and I mean everything. Doesn't have the style that's winning right now either. Dolly Parton, rest in peace. The Coat of Many Colors Christmas special that I watched, I think, last year. She wrote so many songs, Not just a great performer, but a great songwriter, too, Dolly Parton. So relatable. Didn't she have her own amusement park like Dolly World or something like that? She was 80, I believe. Dolly Parton. What a haunting song that is, Jolene, huh? Jolene must have been one hot chick. And 6-5 on the Vasquez horse, who's the buyer horse, who's the consistent horse, first or second, last 4 times to the post. The only glitch here is the course has not been kind to horses that drop even a little bit back early of late. And in the long run, and this is statistically established, if you bet horses devoid of speed and translate that to not one, two, three at first call in sprint races, you will end up unable to afford a happy meal. It won't work out in the long run. I'm thinking it'll probably work out here, but I'm not inclined to take an impending price of probably 4 to 5 because Vasquez's reputation, his hot streak precede him, and this horse is so obvious. On so many fronts, number 3 short time. I think Betagogo could get a piece to 6. And the first race key, I think, very obviously, will the 2 horse get the lead or will the 7 horse get the lead? And there's similar prices up there. Blue Spearman, who was unplaced 3 dirt tries, has been a synthetic creature, is 10 to 1. I can't even call that a fresh egg. It's more like an aborted comeback. When a horse is off a year, runs twice, and then needs more of a rest, correct? Rahi on the outside has taken more play than that win versus 2 lifers, with everything in his favor, should merit. And there was a look at number 3 short time, who has been spaced about 6 weeks for this. Has he skipped the race? They don't run him a route, so don't count the routes. Looks like the last time the straight up 3 life filled going 6 furlongs or 5.5 was July the 14th when short time ran, correct? So you should watch that stuff just a little bit, guys. If you're at all leery of a horse's spacing since the last race, if it's atypically long, if they usually run the horse back on shorter rest, or it's getting out there to 5 or 6 weeks, and the landscape on layoffs has really changed over the last few years, like big time. The psychology is different, training methods are different. The substances, the drugs are different for a lot of reasons. But if you're leery, then there's no substitute for having a sheath of overnights, having a condition book, and just straight up checking through the charts to see if there has been an opportunity to run or not. And even money now in short time. I'm going to skip it. Good luck to you guys. So I got to go to the hospital if I get a new knee. How big is a new knee, by the way? I picture this thing that's like some big honking knee brace, like they would stick on a robot, some robotic knee or something. It's like a knee pad in football or something, and they just cut your freaking knee open and stick it in there. It's got to be smaller than that, right? Is it smaller than that? Please tell me more. Somebody just asked in the comments who makes the lead in the 4th race. Either Sonny the Great or Blue Spearman. I would be fairly certain of that, my good friend. And it might be Blue Spearman, by the way. But see, what makes this diabolically difficult race to beat is the horses that are going to get the lead are far inferior on paper to the come from behind style favorite, who's not a stone cold closer short time, who can stay within 3-4 lengths of the pace down the backstretch and launch a turn move. Speed bias track, and Blue Spearman was getting the lead there. Had a question as post time drew nigh, and I said Blue Spearman probably gets the lead, and the track is so extremely speed biased. I don't know, man. Did we miss the ball there? A couple of you guys did, and a couple of you guys were on Blue Spearman, who you had to hate on every other front besides the fact that Blue Spearman was going to get the lead, and Speed's almost invincible. Last couple of days at the mountain, 6-1. Some folks complaining about the price, and it is kind of suspicious the way the odds tend to drop on horses that clear the lead. I think some of the wise guys may have come up with that horse, though, based on bias betting. I don't know. I just saw where the Buccos don't kick off until 9:40 tonight because they're on the West Coast playing the Padres. Paul Skeens, one or two bobbleheads that I have on my nightstand, along with Caitlin Clark, who's really coming on strong, man. Went off for 37 points the other night, then hit one from so deep, man. It was incredible. 35-footer, I think they measured it. Then we got the 440, the vaunted 440. Tradition-laden race at Mountaineer. Fillies and mares. It seems like when they fill it these days, it's more often for the fillies and mares. The 7,500 claiming. And at the $7,500 tag, notable for her absence is she who is like 10 for 11 at the distance and won this race like the last 3 times it was carded. Correct? Yeah, Determined Love. Determined Love is not in here. So either she's not right or needs a rest, or they don't want to run her back for the 75. I wondered if maybe they would ride her out of the race for a couple of starts to give somebody else a chance, the commoners a chance to take the money in the Filly Mare 440. That is not the case here, though, because it's a wide open race, and they could have written her out with some kind of a condition such as non-winners at 2 furlongs or less in the last 3 months. Easy to do if you're creative. I used to do stuff like that to level the playing field and to write a superior horse out, like in starter allowances. And I used to write a lot of conditions. It was my business. When I was assistant racing secretary, who worked long stints as racing secretary, you might get one dominant starter allowance horse. And you can easily write that horse out by saying, which have run for a claiming price of 4,000 or less since such and such a time, and have not won a race other than maiden or claiming in the last couple of months. So presto, voila. No more Mr. Dominant starter horse. The playing field's leveled and the door's open for somebody else to step up and take top money. That's not what's happened here, though. This is wide open. All comers, and you don't have not only Determined Love, but also Miss Knuckles, who's kind of a hard knocker at the 2 furlong distance. She ain't here either. So the bar's kind of low. I'm not sure it's going to take extreme speed to win this race. Now, you've got 440 veterans, hardened 440 veterans, multiple winners at the distance, and Golden Knoll, number 4, and they don't have look-alike credentials. And Can She Scoot on the outside. Those are the only 2 horses in here that I think have ever won this abbreviated distance. You know the deal with Can She Scoot, guys. Can She Scoot, when she nails the heck out of that break and puts a couple of lengths on her crew by the time they hit mid-stretch, she's got a chance to win. I threw her head last time and missed a break. Doesn't usually do that. The jock lost his job. It looks like on account of that, too, is instead we have Batista tonight on Can She Scoot. This is a 12-year-old who ceased to be useful running anything one step beyond 2 furlongs like 5 years ago. I used to tell Joe, the racing secretary, the Chain Speed should come in and give you a Christmas present for writing this race time after time for a horse that otherwise would be pulling a milk wagon or giving the little kiddies rides at the Hookstown Fair, which is a nationally famous fair. They just kicked off today, I think. It's like, I don't know, 8-9 miles from here. Something like that. Golden Knoll, the other horse in there that's won at the 440. This is kind of a clever conditioner. Michelle Winters knows what she's doing. And Golden Knoll was off the bench on May 31st. And horses usually, and this is counterintuitive, usually need a tightener, a sharpener to succeed going 2 furlongs. Even the short 2 furlong distance. You would think with fresh legs they could blow out there and do their thing, but they don't. They always need a start. So not a bad effort, all things considered, without a race under her belt on May 31st. And then she comes back on synthetics, and she's out there dueling on a quick first split at a 5/8 distance with a fast opponent there. So been off a couple of months for this, which makes you wonder a little bit, how come they didn't come here before this with Golden Knoll? How come Michelle Winters didn't come here last couple of dances for this race? But she's a 5-time winner over the mountain Maine, is Golden Knoll, and has always been a 440 specialist. Flight Control. Coastalness runs and runs in these things, but it's just never fast enough to win them, it seems like. Had a steam last time in mid-stretch, but had an angle, and you can't alter course inside horses and win at the 440. It's like in basketball where you got to fight your way over the pick or the shooter's long gone, man. Just not fast at the 440 coastalness. Dolce Veloce, Ronnie Brown horse who was sold over to Melinda Sanders and has some back speed there. Used to be a 4.5 furlong horse, Dolce Veloce, and got her speed back on over to Melinda Sanders there, who was not a high percentage trainer, but evidently knows how to get Dolce Veloce all jacked up to go out there and run big. Dolce Veloce was in with Determined Love last couple of times and loses by half and loses by a head. So in the absence of Determined Love and also Miss Knuckles, who was the exacta partner there, she might be the one you're looking at here. Dolce Veloce, although I'd be just a little bit leery. I would prefer her if she were breaking on the far outside instead of Can She Scoot to her outside, because if Can She Scoot crosses her over, then it could be an early night for Dolce Veloce. And then Flight Control, kind of the elephant in the middle of the living room, I think we're talking about there with Flight Control, correct, who's never been postward at the 440. I got criteria. I have kind of a formula. If a horse always gets the lead, a horse usually breaks really well, and a horse is shaded 22 seconds to the first call, and a race shorter than 6 furlongs, then that horse sometimes can succeed at the 440. Now, it's usually a different caliber of speed than trainers realize when they run the 440, and they usually get their feelings hurt with horses that always get the lead at 5.5 and 6 and stuff like that. They run the 440 and find out what true quickness and speed is. But this race could be an exception because, again, the story here might be more about who's not postward. In other words, Determined Love and Miss Knuckles, who were the exacta tandem in that order the last couple of times the race filled. The story might be more about who's not here than who is, which makes for a lower bar. Now, the kid, Silva Jr., is on this horse, correct? And he tacks like 126 or something like that. Not a big deal at 2 furlongs. I've seen him tilt 135 and not miss a beat. Back when we used to pile more weight onto him, name your own claiming price and pick your own poise and be weighted accordingly. The higher you choose for your sales sticker, the more weight you're going to carry. And it seems like the high weights would always win when we used to do that at the 440. Flight Control last time was quick. Some of the core speed scratched out of that 4.5, but there was still a quick forward to it. The Bashful Daisy was still in quick front running mode up from Charlestown there in Flight Control top turn, a quick first quarter there. Flight Control was faced with 21-2 the time before Charlestown. So it's understandable she got topped and is on the lead at Tampa going 5.5 and on the lead at Finger Lakes by a unit going 5.8. So she's fast. And one thing that Silva Kid can do is get him out of the gate. He's a little unorthodox. He sits tall in the saddle and he's too long and legged, I think, to be a jockey in the long run. But he can get him out of the gate. And I almost wonder if this might be graduation day, not for the horse, who's a 5-time career winner, but for the jockey. So I'm looking at the board right now, and Girl By is 9-2. I got to be careful. I already knocked one Jeff Fletcher horse tonight, and the horse made me look bad, Mr. Chili Willie. But horses like Girl By that get the lead at 5.5 and 6, and not all the time at that. When you run them the 440, they find out what real speed's about, real quickness, huh? So I can see different scenarios here. If Can She Scoot does not cross over on Dolce Veloce might have the best top speed in the race at this stage and has kind of proven her propers at the 2 furlong distance last couple of times. And then you got Flight Control, who brings a new element and is somewhat fortunate to not fall in with faster company. Again, what surprises me about this race is the 2 horses that don't show up for the dance. Determined Love and Miss Knuckles. Flight Control was fractious in the gate back on May the 14th, and sometimes horses that do that break slowly. I really don't see that propensity from her, though. Now, she has been away a couple of months since her last race and has been scratched a couple of times to boot, which tells me maybe something's rotten in Denmark. I'm talking about her underpinnings behind the scenes. I'm not sure that comes into play, though, at a 440 distance here, guys. different scenarios, different ways this race could play out. I will say if there's anybody that comes away quickly enough to hold their own and not let Can She Scoot top them and cross them over, then the horse is probably going to beat Can She Scoot. That's Can She Scoot's one chance for victory here. So that horse did have the best top speed in the race, and when the 9 was unable to take her path, as Can She Scoot did not catch one of her extreme flyers, then that was your winner there. And she steps up, and my man Kenny Neely, good handicapper, mentioned this, that the iron, I think that's what he meant by this, was absent from this. Determined Love, who's like 10 for 11 at the 440 distance. It would have been like 2 to 5 in this race. And even Miss Knuckles would have been a stick out in this race. But when the cat's away, the mice will play. A little bit unusual to see Melinda Sanders get a horse from Ronnie Brown and do the horse justice, but credit to her. Melinda Sanders is that 9 to 5 shot reports home on top. And once that horse held path inside Can She Scoot, this was history. This race was absolute history as the 6 got bounced around a little bit. But, man, if you don't break quickly and do unto others at the 440, others are going to do unto you. It's the nature of the beast, guys. Sixth race, stretch it out to a mile next. 2 races at a mile. They're going to shorten it to 5.5 for the finale. This is a conditioned race. Numbers twice in 12 months. Cheap claimers, $3,200, and I'm looking for speed. The 1 horse Looney, I think might be your pace setter. Looney has been on top at first call, a grand total of 1 time, and took that to the house. Not a frequent winner with a 3 for 41 thing going on, but has made $100,000, and also is 1 for 1 in a sense. Has converted the only first quarter lead to victory there with a number that would probably win this. And I can make some excuses. Races subsequent to that. I don't think this horse likes to slop at all. Mud last time. And Sunset Town's pretty quick. I know Sunset Town from over the winter time at Mahoning. And this is pace relief here for Looney. He gets a good post. And the time before, Looney threw the head at the start, which I hope isn't a habit. Awkward start is evidenced 1 time there on the page. So I guess you want to hold your breath at the break a little bit here, coming out of the gate, and hope Batista can get Looney away okay if you choose to bet the horse, who I think might be the speed. I think is capable of taking this field all the way. Looney on the inside. Jura, number 2. I know not about this jockey. I really don't. And as far as the trainer on Looney, and I saw this in the comments, let me look it up real fast and see if she was down as owner. Excuse me, guys, in my absence for just 1 minute here to see if she was down as the owner on this horse. Or he was down as owner on this horse in Ohio, which I tend to doubt. But usually when you see a new conditioner, I take the range from behind the scenes. It's somebody that's been involved with the outfit all along in some capacity or another. Yeah, this has been the owner all along, guys. So this is not a change of hands. In fact, has been the owner, this individual, through several different iterations of trainers. So this is the same management with number 1 Looney. Jura's got speed. Really didn't show it last time in a slow-paced race, 25 to the first call, and was not quite with those leaders. But I see some times when Jura has shown good speed. Do not know anything about the jockey. And here's Vasquez coming at us with a couple of horses, correct? Yeah, I mean, Michael and I used to have rules about it. We got to come in the simulcast studio. You know, we'd be in there doing commentary. We'd shut down for the race. We'd hear this little rap on the door. We'd lock the door because we knew somebody would come we don't want to talk to, you know? And so it'd be like, come on, open the door. And we're like, we're going to keep quiet like there's nobody home. Like, where are we going to be while we're doing the freaking show? And the door's locked. Of course, we're in there. But, you know, the thing was usually, and we were both human beings and not human beings with little weensy egos, McMichael and I. So if somebody came in and made a big fuss over her and couldn't give a shit if I lived or died, I wasn't too happy to see him coming next time. And she was the same way because the people would come in and kind of treat me like I was the big deal, the star of the show, and kind of ignore her, put her on the back burner when they would visit the studio. They would no sooner be out the door than she would say, Marky, there's just something about those people that I don't like. Yeah, they made a fuss over me. I know what you don't like about them, but I was the same way. I'm a human being too with an ego, you know? But if somebody would bring us bad luck, they were forever verboten from entering the studio again. And if I would take a tough beat, man, with somebody standing in the studio, I didn't want them in there ever again. They were on my list, baby, on my list. Rack-a-tap tap, one of the Vasquez horses, and this guy's like 25% or higher for the last month and a half at Mountaineers. So he's just kicking, tush, and taking names. The only conditioner up there with him really is Virginia Dempsey, not in number of wins because she's a smaller enterprise, but she's also like 25%. Vasquez saw a horse run out of the screen in the first race tonight on the heels of a 10-length loss last time. So that's good hay and water, folks. A Rack-a-tap was in tougher last time with the old veteran, our Cardinal Prince, and can't pay the toll. Comes down to $3,200, but has been off more than 2 months, which kind of throws me, a little bit. And figures to drop back early. Renzo Diaz gets the call here. And Vasquez does not hit for a high percentage with Diaz, the horses that he puts Diaz on. Renzo will make a beeline for the rail. That's what he does. That's how he rolls. Confessor Gallant, the old 10-year-old here. Gallant old gelding, 16 wins, 16 seconds, almost $500,000. Now, sometimes a one sprint tune-up doesn't do it for a horse to get a rod of ground. It was a flat effort last time, but Confessor could move forward from that. But they lose it, At some point, they just age out, and Confessor is 10 years old now and certainly hasn't shown any life in either of those outings so far this year. Gets a change of jocks over to Joe Stokes, who had the call once last year. Confessor, when Confessor fires, stays close enough to the pace and then launches usually top of the far turn. Classic King likes to clunk up going short for a piece of it. Not a route horse as far as I'm concerned. At number 6, Mission Mike. This is another recent Vasquez acquisition. Fits the same pattern as the horse that he wins with. First off the claim in the opener by many. Mission Mike was down at $3,200, was way up the track. Enter Vasquez. Now, he did buy this horse from a 22% trainer, so maybe there's not that much opportunity for improvement here, but Vasquez is probably going to find a way to improve this horse. Mission Mike, who ran second by less than a length in an open tenor at Tampa this season. Mission Mike comes from a little bit behind, though. Although I would reiterate, guys, that just because speed can't lose a sprint race doesn't always mean you can't rally a bit going along. And in fact, we saw a rallier win a route race earlier, albeit a 3-5 rallier in a race that found an unlikely route contestant. That's a Fancy Fox. Actually, hold on for a second. The strongest route race of That's a Fancy Fox's career. The most stamina that one's ever displayed at 2 turns, which, so I think even the route race we watched earlier pretty much played into the speed bias thing. Did it not? Yeah, race number 2, guys, even though it was one from well behind. I don't like those bad comments about the break on the one horse in here. So I'm going to have to hold my breath at the break if I bet this horse to win, which I'm thinking about doing right now. And they're coming onto the track, and Vasquez is 3-2. Is that Vasquez? Yeah, Vasquez is 3-2 with his recent acquisition. He buys a horse, huh? I wonder sometimes if these guys buy horses indiscriminately because they're so trusting in their methods. I don't know if they're exactly doping them out and scoping them out and watching them gallop and hiding behind the 3/8 pole in the morning and trying to see how a horse goes. Or I don't exactly picture Vasquez over there on that brick wall where the Claim Box Brigade clocks horses and watches them come back after the race and stuff like that. I'm not sure that's the deal here. Guys like this, sometimes these deals are prearranged, one and done, where they come in to run one time and they're already arranged to be left behind with the outfit they end up in. And they're just supremely confident in their methods. They will buy indiscriminately sometimes. And that's how sure they are they can improve on their brethren. That's what Langley used to do, long shot Langley, man. That's what he's done for years. And man, I could cash some bets on acquisition guys back in the 1980s, man. Oh my goodness, how they would turn horses around on the private change of hands, which the form didn't flag back then in the early 1980s. So if you were keeping notes on that kind of stuff, then you had knowledge nobody else possessed. At 1 minute to post. And late start to the Bucko game tonight, huh? I got to wait a few minutes and should be able to catch most of it. Paul Skeens goes to the mound. It was not his old self the other day. They did win, but my man only went like 4 innings. His velocity, his velociraptor continues to be down. So I'm listening to Pittsburgh Sports Talk today, and they go all over the map, kind of like I do here. through my horse racing commentaries, I got on the topic of dinosaurs and decided that alligators are the modern descendants of dinosaurs. Hey guys, alligators are a Darwinian anomaly. They haven't changed in like 20 trillion years. That's what they were. Maybe they were bigger, but this is the form they were in back in the paleontological, I can't even say it, back in the crustacean era, whatever the hell. And it is birds that is well known that are the modern descendants of dinosaurs. I know what happened to dinosaurs. They turned into birds. Which makes me wonder if they weren't a lot faster than maybe scientists believe. Some scientists even believe they had feathers, dinosaurs. Because we don't know what color they were, and I can only guess at how fast they were. I do think T-Rex, the mighty tyrant lizard, the legendary quote unquote predator, was actually a scavenger. And I have read somewhat on the topic. And the nasal cavities were so freaking big, which enabled T-Rex to smell something, a dead carcass from like 30 freaking miles away. And what was he going to do with those little tiny arms to take down a prey? I think T-Rex, and what this demystifies the mighty tyrant lizard, I think he was a scavenger. I really do. I think he only fed off dead things. Hopefully, my impending wager on the one horse here is not dead right out of the gate, because the horse sometimes doesn't break real well. Call plan. Guys, that's a horse I planned all along to make a big bet on, and that's why I put the horse up on a banner for you guys a couple of races ago, Looney, to pay extra close attention to, and kind of tied it to the pro speed bias going on. But I was just kind of dicking around at that point and not really betting much at all and skipping race after race after race. But I made a serious bet there on Looney and was a little surprised to get 980 because I thought the horse was pretty obvious. The only thing that scared me was the looming specter of Juan Vasquez, the villain, Juan Vasquez. I don't know if there's any villainy going on, but when he wins with so many horses that I don't see coming, then he's a villain to me. And I'm a little surprised to get 980 there and very gratified. And I'm probably not going to bet anything else tonight, nor do I have any necessarily real strong opinions on these upcoming races. But I'm not going to bail on you guys. I'm going to stick around and just kind of shoot the breeze a little bit and break these races down, okay? I want to throw something at you first, though, which is a switcho changeo from the Path Grain from last week here. Bear with me for a minute here, guys. Sometimes when speed excels, there's a little bit of a path thing going on, too. It ain't too bad along the inside. In other words, look at the opener. Mighty Mo, two post, Vasquez Magic or no Vasquez Magic. Is Mighty Mo supposed to blow to the lead like Zip Pocket and beat that field by 12 lengths? I don't know. Mighty Mo from the two post with an inside trip. Race number 2, That's a Fancy Fox, sets the lead. It was the one horse and might drift out a little bit in the late stages, but adhered pretty much to the inside for most of it and ran a surprisingly strong second. And if you note carefully, Tuenda, and I know we're talking about 3 to 5 shots, but I want to add this to the bulk of evidence to make my case. There might be at least a mild path bias in play out there. Tuenda saved a lot of ground before angling out and tipping only around front-running That's a Fancy Fox. So let us turn the page once again. And Mr. Chili Willie goes right to the front and wins. I'm not sure that had a lot to do with the path, but I can tell you the horse that I liked a lot in there, Lose Legacy, and I'm not making alibis for Lose Legacy, who came out washed out and didn't run one single jump. But Lose Legacy was out about the 6-7 path around the turn, spun his wheels and went absolutely nowhere. And then we come to race number 4, and there's Blue Spearman, who some of you guys liked. And who I identified as the pace setter there in Blue Spearman spanks that field from the two post with a ground saving burst of speed, guys. And now I'm going to skip the 440 because 440s are evidence of nothing when it comes to running style, obviously, or path bias. Stick with me here. This could be important, guys, as pertains to tomorrow night because there's not supposed to be rain in the forecast. So I'm thinking maybe we get grass tomorrow. And without a change in the weather, whatever green we can ascertain might be in play tonight out there could well visit us again tomorrow. And watch how the sixth race played out there. As Looney gets fronted by the two horse, the runaway freight train, the two horse, who the jock almost comes off of at the break, which was probably a good break for Looney. But whatever the case, it's not very often when you're going to see a horse. And I loved Looney. I'm going to be upfront about that. And I was upfront about it by putting Looney on the banner a couple of races ago for your edification, kids. But not too often will you see a horse like Looney stroll to the front under wraps. And this horse is a front runner. This horse is not a stalker, not a rallier. You're not going to go to plan B when somebody tops you. And not too often you're going to see a horse clear the lead the way Looney did and then get fronted by 2.5 lengths, 3 lengths down the backstretch. Come under a ride as Batista got busy on Looney with a full 5 furlongs to go. That is usually the kiss of death, that body language from a jockey. But with a ground-saving trip, Looney still able to issue that field a beatdown. So I think we've had a lot of evidence that the inside part of the track is probably the best place to be tonight, which is quite a change from the way it's behaved for a lot of the meet, at least for the last few weeks, huh? Are you guys with me on that? I think so. And that was, I danced with the one who brung me there. That's the horse that I showed up tonight to bet on, Looney, and I'm probably done betting for the evening, but I'm going to stick around with you guys for one reason, because I'm committed to make a go of this here in the dungeon, which is our place, man. This is our digs. And also because my dinner's not ready upstairs yet. My lovely wife is off tonight. She's not on RN duty at the nearby medical center. Although I strongly encourage her to pick up all the hours she can because she's highly paid and we can use the dough with me how to work. But she's upstairs making a fine Mexican dinner. She's versatile in the kitchen, even as we speak, guys. And if Scott Davidson, big Mr. Famous disc jockey, were in the house, had invaded the dungeon again tonight, Looney would have managed to get beat. 7th race. So what do we got? 6 down, 2 to go, right? Yeah. 7th race, 1 mile. Fillies and mares. I hate 2-turn cheap fillies and mares. I just never come to grips with them. Numbers twice in 2026. 5,000 claiming. $4,000 races or less not considered eligibility. Well, I'm not sure how many of the trainers actually read that clause because they put horses in that just straight up fit the condition that don't benefit from the clause. If you can stand for me to get just a little bit technical, because conditions were my business for more than 3 decades, man. More than 3 decades. So we got to fill this 7. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, how's about we find some speed and get busy at the windows? Come on, fess up, guys. Please, fess up. Bank Buster. You know when I watched Bank Buster win by a Secretariat margin there on June the 14th, I'm thinking, man, the rail's got to be fantastic. The speed's got to be fantastic. Inside speed's going to dominate the rest of the card because Bank Buster ain't that good. You know what, though? When all the smoke had cleared and I went back to the charts, I didn't see any bias in play. So that was all Bank Buster and no bias, believe it or not. The banker comes back and gets hooked. So that's an excuse to fold to 5th and then shortens to 6 furlongs, which is probably not a good go for Bank Buster. So Bank Buster could be on tilt for this race on a speed-biased surface. The problem with Bank Buster, I think, Bank Buster's not as good as that resounding win on June the 14th, but it was not bias aided. So I'm going to give some credit there. The running style obviously merits a long, hard look here. The speed style. I wish the 7 horse weren't in here because photo finish, it's a little hard to weed through those past performances because photo finish rallies with a race flow in the grain wide was the best place on the track. And, for a guy who is called in the dogs and put out the campfire, I'm kind of taking a deep dive on this, aren't I? But I don't want to blow it off. I don't. It was kind of my calling card as an analyst who worked within the industry to never blow any race off, because my philosophy was some race is always the seventh game of somebody's World Series. And every Pirates game, by the way, for me now is a World Series, because I need them to win 79. Keep a good thought for me. And it's going to be close, very close. What did that guy in Hunt for Red October say? Hold on, it's going to be close, when they narrowly avoided the torpedo. It's going to be close. The 79 win thing for the Bucks, my beloved Buccos. A photo finish used the grain and used the race flow to rally going 6 furlongs on July the 21st. And if you look at the previous win to that last September, photo finish takes an off-turf race that was devoid of speed. So she's been kind of hitting them more they're not. Kind of like dribbling weak grounders between infielders for weak base hits, has photo finish been doing. But photo finish does possess route speed, a snappy turn of route speed, and was very alert last time going 6 furlongs in kind of a fast-paced 6 furlong race, which probably sets photo finish up under the aggressive Luis Negron to go out there and just hound Bankbuster. Maybe hound Bankbuster right into the ground. It's possible. It is certainly possible. Hyper Awakening, I think I noted, and somebody mentioned to me earlier in the comments, and I appreciate your attention to this matter. Isn't that what Trump says when he puts out a tweet? Thank you for your attention to this matter. I'm not going political in here. I'm not going to betray any of my political inclinations here. And I'm not an extremist, by the way. Either way, as you might have guessed, I'm an independent thinker, and I go issue by issue. Now, it just so happens there's one particular party who I tend to side with more often these days on issues, but we're not going to go political. But thank you for your attention to this matter by mentioning to me earlier that Sweet Queen Bee's a scratch from the last race, and is going to save the lines maker, Mountaineers' ignominious morning lines maker, further embarrassment, because 5-2 on the line, 2-5 might have been tops for Sweet Queen Bee had she not been scratched there. So there's that. Hyper Awakening. I don't have to look at the board to tell you. Hyper Awakening, one-hit wonder there, kind of a one-number horse, and it was a mere 3-lifer. And a 4,003 life victory is not the prelude coming in here and winning this trick condition where 4,000 or less doesn't count against a field of veterans. And I think every single one has notched more career wins, sometimes considerably more in number than Hyper Awakening. So Hyper Awakening, I don't think and that win, by the way, I thought was product of a very alert ride on the part of Luis Tapara to move up and attack a super soft pace on a horse that's never seen the pace before. Different scenario here. And I don't think Hyper Awakening is going to be anything like the 2-1 morning line price point there. I'd be surprised if this horse were not considerably higher right now in the win pool. So I'm going to check that out. And Hyper Awakening is, in fact, 11-1. I never miss when I cherry pick the embarrassing price points on the Mountaineer morning line, the amateurish price points on the Mountaineer morning line. I never miss when I cherry pick them. I think I missed one time out of like a couple of hundred shots. I think I missed once and didn't miss by much, by the way. Legacy Trail and Super Honey Timber, they come in tandem. Legacy Trail should be alert, stretching out here, and has been close to the pace in some of those sprints. Tailed off last time. I'm not sure what that means. And it's not like that was the classiest of ratings handicap races. I wouldn't count this as any monumental class drop for Legacy Trail. Super Honey Timber wins short, wins long, back-to-back. That's kind of cool. You know what kind of catches me about her, Super Honey Timber? Her first couple of races on turf really weren't that good, I didn't think, in comparison to her surrounding dirt form. So I'm not even sure she likes the stuff. So I'm giving her extra credit for that effort on grass on July the 26th. But what happened last time? Should have fired, I think, which she didn't. Kaya's Song got a great trip to thread the needle as the speeds backed up and the closers couldn't get to her. And it wasn't a key race or productive. Amalfi Lady, who was second to her on June 23rd, has come back to lose by a pole like 3 times since then. Kaya's Song, though, not exactly a sprinter, and she's in good form and figures to trip out well here. And if Bankbuster and Photo Finish do the old let's you and her fight thing,
then Kaya's Song could be perfectly positioned to get first run on some of the weights here. Summer at the Shore, a 10-length winner last time. You got the Vasquez factor, but when the figure does not match the margin, I'm not sure how impressed I am. And also, Summer at the Shore just wailed and wailed and wailed at lowly $4,000 low condition horses and just could not get the job done start after start after start. So I don't know. She's as good as that last race. I really don't. Not a race I necessarily intend to bet, as I mentioned a little bit ago. I think I'm done wagering for the evening, but I'm not done talking with you guys and going back and forth.
So the same conditioner runs 1-2 at identical odds, 5-2 and 5-2 by like a nose. Reminds me of a time when Dale Baird dead heated with two horses. I think it was a grass race. Poto, a front running route horse, and a nasty ass, tough front running starter steed. And limnologist, who was, I always thought overrated, was perceived to have some class, limnologist. And they dead heated. And I always thought, since back then, horses were coupled, entries were coupled, that the placing judges said, what the hell? It's going to be entertaining. We're going to make national news. Dale Baird owns them both. And it doesn't affect the payouts here. So let's just dead heat it for funsies, because I swear Poto won the race by 3 or 4 freaking discernible inches. And I used to hate dead heats when I was a placing judge. And the old guys, the experienced judges, used to say dead heat's the safe call. And once I got my sea legs under me and realized that I was going to be their boss sooner than later, I told these pricks, I said, guys, the safe call, stop that shit. The safe call is the correct call. The safe call is the correct call. So I became such a stickler for not doing the lazy thing. And back then, the photo guy could thicken the wire a little bit and maybe bury one of the noses in it. Nothing nefarious or nothing to cheat or anything like that. But if the photo didn't support your call and it didn't show a discernible margin, that it looked to you like existed on the splashdown, we called it the splashdown. And back in the day, literally, when pictures were handed down from aloft, it was a different era. But anyways, could thicken the wire and give the illusion of a dead heat and stuff, which I just hated. And I became such a stickler at splitting tight ones that I insisted sometimes on splitting hairs that maybe didn't exist, because I think some of my history is a degenerate gambler, and I was a degenerate gambler, degen, way before I became a racing official. I think my distaste for dead heats kind of came through during my time in the placing stand, which is a dead-end job. But I worked it for a while when I first became a racing official, and I used to insist on splitting hairs, man, hairs. If I was up there, we were probably going to determine a winner, whether the picture supported it or not. But I hearkened back to that Poto limnologist photo finish, Dale Baird, the owner trainer on both of them, and that memory conjured up by the Ramjeet 1-2 finish there with Legacy Trail and super honeyed timber. I don't think it was really a dead heat to Baird horses. So this wasn't a dead heat either, as Legacy Trail hangs on. I thought that the path bias thing, which I brought to your attention, and hopefully I made a good sale before the race, I thought it influenced the outcome there, because Summer at the Shore didn't figure to show that kind of speed. But once Summer at the Shore does show that kind of speed, I think it's notable that she wins the race within a race and dispatches the two opponents to her outside, that she's got buffered out from the inside there, even if she is doomed to fold up there and lose her action, by the way, in the late stages. It wasn't pretty, the way she was poking at the ground with that left lead. But also, the winning move was up the inside, make no mistake. Legacy Trail had to tip around, fading Summer at the Shore, but moved for many furlongs, scraping paint there through the interior part of that race. And I think that event just adds kind of some steam to my pro rail theory that I've developed over the course of this race card. Hate the last race. Don't even want to talk about it, guys. 5.5 nominators twice in 12 months. Promised I'd stick around. $4,000 claiming. All I'm going to end up doing is telling you why nobody can win this race if I start talking about it. I was asked for a rant by my man, Matt Harmon, and I can't talk. I'm just not in the mood to talk about what you want me to talk about, Matt. I'm going to tell you what my rant is, though. Why does everything on wheels now have a fucking siren? I get it. Cop cars have sirens. Volunteer firemen, they have sirens. They got to get there, man, and try to save somebody's domicile. I understand. Okay, ambulances. Somebody could be dying in the back. I'm going to pull over. But all these electric trucks and work trucks now, they put the freaking siren on and start going 80 miles an hour and crowd you off the road. What is their authority to run citizens off the road? There are only 3 types of vehicles that should have sirens: cop cars, firemen, and ambulances. And that's it. And while we are at it, I had a fender bender last year. I don't think I ever mentioned it on my broadcast here. In the opposing lane, there's a school bus approaching, and all these flashing lights start going off. Reds, whites, greens, purples, yellows. I'm thinking the Russians are about to fucking land or something. So I jam my brakes on.
So the guy behind me just wails into me because I wasn't supposed to stop. Evidently, it was the warning. We're soon going to flash the light that means you have to stop. How many different colored fucking lights can you put on a school bus? They're going to cause more wrecks than they save with all those lights. Impossible to discern which of those many multicolored lights, like Joseph's coat of many colors, on a school bus are intended to make you do what? So what am I supposed to do? I don't want to hit the kids. So when I see any light go on, I jam the brakes on and later learn, oh, I wasn't supposed to. That wasn't to come to a stoplight. Oh, no, no, no. That was we're about to extend our mirror sign that says stoplight and come in with some different colored lights. It is ridiculous, the array of lights on school buses. And I'm all for child safety. I get it. I understand. You wouldn't believe, and I drill this into my son, Little Bear, how slow I crawl through residential areas. Hit a child, I will not. Never. I drive so slowly through any residential area where any child could conceivably be at play, even on a weekday, that if I would hit a kid, I wouldn't even hurt him, is how slow I'm going. So I'm not insensitive to child safety, not at all, because as a matter of fact, I had a really good friend once whose son was a noted attorney and ruined his life because he hit a poor kid who was on a Hot Wheels and he couldn't see him and he was going a little bit too fast. They were cul-de-sac and dragged the unfortunate child for about 30 or 40 feet and literally ruined his life and hurt the child badly. And it was just a tragedy. And it has stuck in my mind ever since. And I can't go slow enough when kids are involved. Doesn't mean all the array of lights, confusing lights that I maintain are going to cause more accidents than they prevent on school buses, are the right way to approach it. So that's my rant for the night, guys. That's my rant. Hope it was good for you. They're coming onto the track at 0 minutes to post. I wanted to talk a little bit about the television shows that I've been watching as I drift off into a fitful sleep at night. And I'm not going to talk at all about this race. You guys may have ascertained that because nothing I have to say is going to help you at all on this race. And I did promise I would stick around. I started watching The Lone Ranger a couple of months ago, and I really dig his moral assuredness. There's no wavering on him. There's no gray. It's all black and white with the Lone Ranger. And that's an attitude that I just detested when I was younger. But I must have some desire for strong authority in my life, in my world, in my universe, because now I'm watching Highway Patrol with Broderick Crawford, the taciturn cop. That 1950s series, Highway Patrol, I vaguely remember my dad watching it when I was a really little kid being born and being bored out of my mind by it. But now I like it. I like how much Dan Matthews, is that the Broderick Crawford character? I like the way he barks orders at people and takes control of the situation and never cuts the bad guys any slack. And there's no moral turpitude there at all, man. So this must bespeak some deep desire on my part to have order in my life. When I drift off to sleep at night, I actually leave these shows on and I binge them. And the thing they have in common is strong authority that is unbending and unyielding to the no-goodniks that break the law. And I did so many things when I was younger, maybe against the law, and a lot of things I wouldn't do now. That what a change for me. What a sea change. What a monumental alteration in my attitude that I'm so comfortable now that I want to drift off to sleep with strong authority figures barking orders with total certainty and taking complete charge of the entire universe as I drift off to sleep. What does that say about me? I'm not sure. I'm not sure you guys even care. Hey, I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys tonight, and hopefully the sound was okay. I will be back tomorrow. One more card to go this weekend. I'd be shocked if we're not back on the turf because there's some chance of rain late tomorrow night, but not tonight. Not tonight at all. So tomorrow will be a third consecutive day of temps, somewhere around 80, with the sun beating down. So to not be on the grass, I think would maybe hint at some more serious problems when it comes to the mountain or turf course. I'm thinking they'll be on the grass. I'm going to handicap for grass. But whatever the case, I will catch you tomorrow at about 15 minutes to first post. Thanks for joining me. And as always, I hate to sound like a broken record, but you guys ain't my fans, and you're not my viewers. You're my friends. And your presence is much appreciated and welcome here in the dungeon we share. Mark Patterson out.